getting underway in Vienna, but we're hearing that they are not going to cut production. In fact, the story is that they are going to increase output quotas to 31.5 million barrels, which is just what they're currently producing. For analysis of the decision, we're joined from London by Naeem Aslam, his chief market analyst at Trade. Let's talk about what we've heard so far. I don't think I've seen an official statement on this 31.5 million barrels, but give us the context for raising the production quota by OPEC.
Thanks very much for having me. Yes, that is absolutely correct. And I do agree. We have said one thing to our investors: do not expect any kind of a cut from the OPEC organization. Now, you wanted to know what was the reason. Because if you have a mind frame that OPEC is going to cut their production, they have to think about the price. Who is the biggest buyer when it comes to the OPEC buying? It's your Chinese. And Saudi Arabia, who's the biggest producer within the OPEC organization, they're still cutting the prices for the Chinese buyers. And they have regained their first position by producing nearly 3.99 million tons. Russia in October was at the top spot. So because the price war is still very intense in that arena, we don't think that it is going to be a cut outcome out of this meeting. So yes, increasing their production it is very in line with our forecast. The reason is because there is a major threat for the OPEC organization. New members are joining in, and then Iran will also be producing more oil after the sanctions are raised. So if they wanted to keep a discipline within the OPEC organization, what they have to do is they have to increase production.
Naeem, let's get to that 31.5 million. So you mentioned new members joining OPEC, one of which is Indonesia. So and as you said, Iran's going to be increasing their production after the sanctions come off. So is this 31.5 million, does that include already Indonesia in your view? So it's really not, you know, the Saudis pumping more or any of the other parties pumping more?
I think it's extremely difficult to rely on their predictions or any estimates that they project. History tells us one thing, that they do not stick to their projections or their predictions. So for the highest production they have produced so far is nearly about 33 million barrels when the quota was 30 million. So even if they do increase the number to 31 or 32, I think the production is going to be still more higher. Why is that? The reason is that most of the production or the extra glut that we have on the market, even though everyone is blaming that it is coming from OPEC, but perhaps it is not. The most of the production is coming from the non-OPEC producers because they are producing nearly 50 million barrels. So OPEC is producing maybe about 31 to 32 million barrels.
The Saudis, who had previously been the swing producer, I understand their finances are in a bit of disarray because of the low price for oil that they're currently receiving. How does this end?
Yes, Saudis are fighting two wars on their end. Number one is externally, the other one is internally. When we are talking about external war, then we are talking about non-shale production. And this is where they have missed their estimates. First, they thought, okay, the U.S. shale production, their break-even cost is between $60 to $70. But obviously, as your previous guest was saying, with the more price moving lower, the systems are still becoming more efficient, and there isn't any firm or any bigger companies going on the stretcher bed, so that we haven't seen a big list in hospitals or a big list of these companies going bankrupt. Yes, there is a stress without a doubt, but there isn't that much of a stress. So now they estimate the break-even for them is nearly $30. So the price of crude has to fall before $30 before Saudis would do. So that's your external war. What about your internal war? Now, there is no democracy when it comes to Saudi Arabia. There's only kingdomship. Now, if we remember 2 years back, there was a massive geopolitical unrest in Middle East, which started in Egypt. At the time what Saudis did, they've just thrown another 3 billion on the streets. They said, okay, let's keep the situation calm and then let's keep the kingdom. So there's no democracy within Saudi Arabia. And then they are also fighting war with Syria on their borders. Now that is obviously depleting their foreign reserves, which was nearly 670 billion, now stands at 640 billion. However, if anyone who has stayed in the oil market or in the trading business for long, they will understand that running a budget deficit is not a massive problem for Saudi Arabia, because they have run a massive budget deficit back in the past, and they will still do that. But the production cost for Saudi Arabia is really nearly $3 to $4 per barrel. So they can certainly afford that. So they are not too much worried about balancing their budget, because in order for them to balance the budget, crude price really needs to be above $104. That's not where the price is going to be anytime soon.
Naeem, just briefly, where do you think the price is going to be 6 months from now?
I think the lower handle could be near $27 to $28.
Oh, there's a lot of Canadians that just gulped on that. Naeem, I'm going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Naeem Aslam is Chief Market Analyst at Ava Trade in London.